Mr. Men, Little Miss Chatterbox's over the top big top. Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Chatterbox loves to talk. It's hard to get her to stop. "Oh my gosh!" said Little Miss Chatterbox. "I'm so excited! The circus is here in Dilly-dale, and I'm the Ringmaster. Here comes Mr. Happy to interview me for his show," said Little Miss Chatterbox. "Welcome to Good Morning Dilly-dale," said Mr. Happy. "We're here with the Ringmaster of the Dilly-dale Circus. It looks like you're just about ready to go." "Almost," said Little Miss Chatterbox. "Mr. Quiet is getting his ticket booth ready. The clowns are practicing their juggling, and the circus truck is being unloaded. Mr. Small is helping Mr. Stubborn set up the tent right now," Little Miss Chatterbox told Mr. Happy. But over at the tent, Mr. Small was having a problem.
"Excuse me,"
he called out.
"I appear to be tangled in these ropes."
Mr. Stubborn pulled on the ropes and up went the tent. "Yikes!" cried Little Miss Chatterbox. "It looks like Mr. Small is stuck on top of the tent. I hope he can get down from there." Just then Little Miss Helpful ran over. She whispered something in Little Miss Chatterbox's ear and ran off. "Oh no!" cried Little Miss Chatterbox. "I'd better get going. I have to find Mr. Fussy, the band leader, right away." "There goes the Ringmaster," Mr. Happy said into his camera. "We'd better go find our seats." "Mr. Fussy!" Little Miss Chatterbox cried, poking her head backstage. "I have terrible news. The band just quit."
"Quit?"
asked Mr. Fussy, shocked.
"But the show can't go on without a band."
"Oh, don't worry," Little Miss Chatterbox assured him. "I've found some new musicians. Come on in, everybody." Little Miss Chatterbox pulled back the curtain. In walked Mr. Noisy, Mr. Messy, and Mr. Tickle carrying their instruments.
"Little Miss Chatterbox!"
exclaimed Mr. Fussy.
"These aren't musicians, they're clowns."
"Oh, but they play a lovely kazoo," said Little Miss Chatterbox. Mr. Fussy turned to the clown musicians.
"Very well,"
he said with a sigh.
"You'll have to do. We don't even have time to practice."
While Mr. Fussy lined up the band, Little Miss Chatterbox greeted the audience. "Welcome to Dilly-dale Circus," she said. "I'm your Ringmaster, Little Miss Chatterbox, and here are our musicians for the evening." Mr. Fussy tapped his baton and the band began to play terribly. "Yikes!" said Little Miss Chatterbox, covering her ears. "Maybe we should see what's going on in Ring 1. Presenting Mr. Bump on his trusty horse, Rex," Little Miss Chatterbox announced. Mr. Bump took a deep breath and off he went with Rex. Around and around the ring they galloped. "Look at them go!" said Little Miss Chatterbox. "I am so glad I don't have to stand up on a horse. I'm sure I'd fall off right away." Just then, Mr. Bump lost his balance and tumbled to the ground. "Wow, that's weird. I say something and it happens," said little Miss Chatterbox. "Oh, I love this act," said little Miss Chatterbox, turning to Ring 2. "Mr. Bounce is now going to leap from the top of a ladder and land in a teeny-weeny bucket of water." Mr. Bump stepped to the edge of the platform. He looked down at the bucket far below. Then he held his nose and jumped. Down, down, down he went, until— "Mr. Bounce! More to the left! The left!" shouted little Miss Chatterbox. "Oh!" cried Mr. Bounce as he landed to the right of the bucket. He hit the ground and bounced away. "Hello!" he called. "Goodbye!" "Watch out, Mr. Bounce!" little Miss Chatterbox chattered. "Mr. Bump is back on his horse." Suddenly, Mr. Bounce's bouncing landed him on top of Rex. "Poopity-poop!" said Mr. Bump as he fell to the ground again. "Ouch! That looked like it hurt," said little Miss Chatterbox. "Why don't we check in on our musicians?" Just then a giant glob of peanut butter and a trumpet blast knocked over Mr. Fussy. "Shazlam!" shouted Mr. Messy. "I got some peanut butter stuck in my trumpet." "What a mess!" said little Miss Chatterbox. "Mr. Noisy, what are you doing?" Mr. Noisy had plopped his drum on Mr. Messy's head and was pounding on it. "Maybe we should move on," said little Miss Chatterbox. "Now little Miss Calamity will ride a bicycle across a tightrope while blindfolded," said little Miss Chatterbox. "Everyone, we must be absolutely silent." Little Miss Calamity slowly rode across the tightrope. "She's going to make it!" shouted little Miss Chatterbox. Suddenly, little Miss Calamity began to wobble. "Uh-oh!" said little Miss Chatterbox. Little Miss Calamity fell off her bike and flew through the air. Down below, Mr. Bump had climbed back onto Rex with Mr. Bounce. But just as he was about to stand up, little Miss Calamity came crashing down and knocked Mr. Bounce right off the horse. Bounce, 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 bounced Mr. Bounce, right into his bucket of water. "Ta-da!" cheered little Miss Chatterbox. "I just love it when everything works out. Wait, Mr. Bump, where are you going?" Mr. Bump had lost control of Rex. He and little Miss Calamity rode past little Miss Chatterbox and right out of the tent. "Oh, well, I'm sure he'll be back. The show must go on. Next up is little Miss Daredevil and her amazing Loop the Loop," announced little Miss Chatterbox. "Thank you," said little Miss Daredevil. "I'll need a volunteer from the audience." "Don't pick me," Mr. Quiet whispered. He tried to cover his face so he wouldn't be seen. "Great! Thanks for volunteering, Mr. Quiet," said little Miss Daredevil as she dragged him into the ring. Little Miss Daredevil put a helmet on Mr. Quiet.
"Ready for the thrill of your life?"
she asked.
"No, not really. I do not like thrills. Not for me. Nope,"
mumbled Mr. Quiet. But little Miss Daredevil couldn't hear him. She jumped on the front of the bike and off they went. They rode around the ring faster and faster. Finally, little Miss Daredevil rode onto the ramp and they began to loop the loop. Once, twice, 3 times they circled. After the 4th time around, the bike shot off the track and right through the roof of the tent. "Woo-hoo!" cried little Miss Daredevil.
"No good, no good, no good!"
cried Mr. Quiet as they disappeared into the sky.
"Oh, wasn't that amazing!"
cried little Miss Chatterbox. "I wish I could do that, but I have plenty of other talents. I have my own radio show and I'm an excellent mime." Little Miss Chatterbox looked around. "I wonder if they're coming back."
"Well, that's our show," said little Miss Chatterbox. "Thanks for coming and for letting me, little Miss Chatterbox, be your ringmaster. I can't wait for the next exciting event in Dilly-dale. Maybe it will be the county fair or the annual pet parade. I sure do love a parade. Maybe—"
The show was finished, but little Miss Chatterbox certainly wasn't. She chattered long after the audience was gone and well into the night. Thank you for listening.